Okay, we live. I don't know. What's Facebook doing? Go live on Facebook. Okay. Okay, let's do this. Let's remove Facebook. And then let's re-add Facebook. It's now. And go. I think we live on YouTube. There you go. We should be on Facebook. How's things going?
All good, hey? All good. How's it going with you?
Very well. Can you hear the aircon in the background? Do you want me to turn it off?
No, I'm getting no issues. No sounds on my side.
Perfect. Otherwise, I'll just glisten because I look incredible. Do you know what the problem with it is? Is it on hot or cold? With the rain, the office got like an odd leak here and there and whatnot. So I mean, you're familiar with the environment, few carpets, and of course, it didn't leak on all the tiles. So I think they worked overtime for the last little bit just to really dry them out. But eventually, Lee gave up and got a professional company to come in, and so they smell nice. But then I think that's in the aircons on warm to, I don't know, assist with the moisture. But what can we do? From what I understand, if people comment, can you see the comment section on the side?
Yes.
By any chance?
Yes. StreamYard. Yes. I can open up the comments there.
Fantastic. So if people comment, they should see them. I'm going to check on Facebook on my phone to see if we live. Let's have a look. There you go. Yeah, I see us. Yeah, Varosha Chetty, whoever that might be, she's watching. So we should see these things come up, I believe, as we go. 3 viewers, one of them's me, so that's the most we've had. But yeah, talk to me. What's obviously your background is very different to what I've seen in the past. How did that end up becoming a thing?
Geez, so it's quite a bit of a story, but I guess it goes back to just post-COVID. When I say post-COVID, I got COVID last year in May.
Yeah.
And out of that, I don't know, I just didn't seem to recover. And I kept blaming long COVID. I was suffering with symptoms of brain fog. I was suffering like not being able to grasp things mentally, like short-term memory loss. Almost these out-of-body experiences. It was very strange. And it took me a while to get to the point where I realized I got to stop blaming long COVID. You know, it actually happened. So I got COVID in May. We're now in August, and it's Lisa's birthday on the 7th of August, mine on the 8th, and we've got the public holiday on the 9th of August. And I just remember going through that long weekend. We went away with family, had an awesome weekend. Tuesday, I'm driving to the office, and I'm just overwhelmed with this heaviness, this feeling that it was awful. And that was the moment where I thought, no, there's something's not right. I can't keep blaming long COVID. And so the first thing I did is I went for medical. That came out all fine. So physically there were no issues. And then I thought, well, let me go to an NLP coach, a lady who I've seen for quite a while. She's helped me with quite a few things over the years. Yeah. Went, saw her, and in a nutshell, came out of that process. Basically, what happened was, or what I was dealing with was an identity crisis. You know, I'd always created myself, or always created an identity for myself based in real estate, based in being career driven. I always saw myself as being that person and liked people seeing me in a certain way. But I was now entering a stage in my life where I was going to be a dad. So at that point, we had a miscarriage. So although we didn't know Lisa was pregnant again, we had a miscarriage, and that, of course, had brought up emotions. And I just, number one, I had to understand what was going on an unconscious level. And number two, then give myself permission to, instead of being seen as a great business person or a great real estate agent or all the things that I'd created for myself over the previous 10 years, was now thinking, well, you know, what about being a great dad and a great husband and all these other things which I hadn't really, with my conscious mind, grasped, but on an unconscious level, it was coming through quite strongly. So once we dealt through that and this huge weight came off my shoulders and this fog lifted, and I just started to, like, literally, when I say to you in a couple of hours, I was feeling heaps better. We then looked at, well, if I'm going to be the best father I can be and the best husband and the best family man I can be, as what I'm currently doing in my career, in line with that? Or is there something else I could be doing or could be doing which would enable me to fulfill those roles to the best of my capabilities? And the short answer was no. At that point, it became evident that I think in order for me to give myself the time, the freedom of time, in order for me to create a platform that I can be at every school day, every sports day, that I can take school holidays off, that I can, at the drop of a hat, decide, right, today I'm going to take the day off and be with my kids, or, just to have that sort of freedom. It became evident that I either needed to become an agent again, because being an agent affords you that. But then I've also spent the last 4 or 5 years developing a skill set, which I didn't want to let go. So it was, right, how do I do both? And it just became clear that maybe now's the time to do something on my own. Now's the time to...
well, now's the time. You've only got time, because just wait till the little one pops out. If you think the day can go by quickly, just wait. But it's exciting stuff. When's the due date?
23rd of May, hey? So we're in birth month. Yeah, so we're in the final 2 to 3 weeks, eh?
That's exciting stuff. Let me just close my door quickly. 2 seconds. That's exciting. And I know you guys had your baby shower and everything. You've probably chosen to do two of the most stressful things. Well, not that you've chosen to have the baby in May. That's just worked out time-wise. But you've chosen to have a huge stress in your life with effectively a career change, or this huge role shift. Because, I mean, you've been an agent. You've obviously now been in a leadership role or management. Now you're sort of combining both. And good luck. But what I want to know is, are you also going to directly sell, or are you going to sort of assume the role and become more of like a team leader that grows and manages a team? Or are we going to see Josh Friedman boards back on the streets?
Yes, no. So I will be selling again. Over my time managing and coaching and mentoring, one thing that didn't leave me was the desire to sell. And I sort of felt that flame inside me burn brightest when I was out with the rookies, when I was out in the field helping them present mandates or going through negotiations, pieces. That's when I felt the most alive. And I thought over time that would fade, and I would get the same type of thrill from other areas, but it never really came. So I want to get back into selling. First and foremost, I think before I build a team, I want to be entrenched myself. I want to be operating as an agent myself, and then start to put people in that I can mentor and coach around that. But long term, I don't really see myself stopping to sell, if that makes sense. I always want to keep a hand in the market. On the back of the last 4 or 5 years having not sold. So I'll be out there selling again. And look, to be fair, this wasn't something I planned to do right away. I've never drawn a line.
I mean, inevitably it really isn't. What's exciting though, so obviously you're going to now dive back into the seller role. For 11 people, this is the most live I've ever had. So that's exciting. But now that you're effectively restarting your career as an agent, obviously you've got the experience that you've previously had on both sides of the coin. What is going to be your first thing, or what are you going to do now as an agent to reestablish yourself in a market that you really haven't had, which is probably a good thing, a footprint in before? What's your port of call? If you don't want to share it, just text me.
Stock's the name of the game, hey? Stock is the name of the game. So I'm going back to basics, building a database. Look, I've never sold in the Upper Highway area. So I'm pretty much starting a database from scratch. So meeting as many homeowners as I can is the name of the game. And we know 98% of them are not going to be looking to sell in the immediate future, but that's okay. I'm fine with that. This is, sales is a long-term game. So my goal now is just to meet as many people as possible, start building that database. and just start connecting with people. Things will start to progress from there. Fortunately,
Yes.
joining Shelley has come with some added benefits. One of them being a referral base. With Shelley operating out of Westville, with them having Greenhaven Estate, Rob Roy, they've already got people who want to sell in the Upper Hour area that they've been working with over the last year or two.
And referrals previously sent. Now, hopefully it gets sent to you. Otherwise, it's going to be an awkward meeting on a Monday whenever you guys have it. When you said benefits, I thought you were going to say something like a Porsche or something cool, but I suppose referrals will do as well.
I'll say whatever I can get right now. I won't say no to Porsche referrals.
I'll take it all. No one would ever say no, I don't think. Especially after watching like an episode of Selling Sunsets or something. It'd be pretty cool. Get just a car wrapped in the same colors behind you. Yeah? You'll see it's in his, like, Dave Bennett's here in our area where he drives around in his yellow goodie. Yeah? People see it. You just can't drive like a lunatic like you normally do. And so walk me through your career, because obviously I've known you for a long time. What originally got you into real estate, or was it sort of like me where just by chance, my mom happened to be an agent. I wasn't really enjoying I wouldn't not enjoy it. It just wasn't for me at my previous sort of employment. So by virtue, when I spoke to Gail at the time, she's like, why don't you try? So just by default, I started across the road from where I am now. What is your path that led you to it?
Yeah, so I'm one of the majority like yourself, where real estate found us. We didn't find real estate. I just come back from a 2-year gap year, and it was actually me figuring out what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do graphic design. I realized quite quickly that wasn't for me. And my father was a rental agent. There was, an opportunity that came up, but it really wasn't for the long term at that stage. It was really come and do this, come and help my father in rentals until I figure out what it is I want to do. And, but you know how it goes. Got going in rentals, ended up being afforded the opportunity through the company I was working with. They were super gracious at the time. They assisted me in purchasing a car. And before you know it, you're now operating. You got expenses, you're a 20-year-old adult. Just the penny dropped. I thought, okay, well, look, I'm trying to figure out what it is I want to do. Money is important. At that stage, money was everything. So how can I earn as much money as possible? And I didn't have to look very far. All I had to do was look across the office to the sales agents and see what some of them were earning on a monthly basis to go, real estate, this looks like something that I can get into. So that was the motivation at the time. I'm sure you've gone through the same, and most agents will know what I'm talking about when I say that eagerness and that enthusiasm faded very quickly when I entered the sales market. And I think in that first year, I earned about 69,000 Rand in gross com, had to share half of that with the company, but ended up racking up a huge loan account, getting into heaps amounts of debt. And that sort of forced me to persevere, kept me in the industry long enough to break through those first couple of years, to get through the challenges and finally get on my feet. There were many a time where if I was able to walk away and start something, I probably would have, but because I owed so much money, it wasn't really an option. So it sort of forced me to hang around long enough to finally find my feet. And by the time I paid off that debt, I was now up and running and sort of never turned back. I fell in love with the industry. That was 12 years ago.
So you talk about like earning 67 grand gross. So I was going to do a post about it the other day, but then it was too late and I didn't think. So it's in my drafts. But this year, there we go. That there, I think it's 64 Aberfeldy Road, was my first ever listing. Canvassed a private seller. I don't know how many I canvassed prior. And got the listing, was 1,425,000 Rand. Sheila in the office sold it, but because I networked it, also got the first com slip, pretty excited, but they did it wrong because I was on a network split. Come payday, didn't think about tax or any of that sort of stuff, and hit my account. Don't get me wrong, it was more money that I earned like the last 8 months prior, so I felt like I was Rockefeller, but then I was like, geez, but it looks so different on the paper. But like after that, I mean, in the post I started writing, like that's when like you said, the penny drops or it ignites the fire, and it's like, this is what I want to do. Like, if I'm excited about this, and that was like a 40% earning plus the 50% that then went to the company. I was like, this is exciting. And then you'll know, like on a national level, when you get exposed to what some of the agents do, it's hard not to fall in love with real estate. What I have learned though over time, like any manager, very often points to the ceiling, so oh, look, there's none of these in real estate. They never look to the floor, like, well, there's none of those either. If you don't do the activities or it's patience. I mean, that's ultimately all it comes down to. I think is just it's a long haul. This year alone, I think maybe I'll have 4 resales, and that's the first time ever 7 years later that someone's resold a property. So it's one of those things, but it's exciting. It's nice that I think we've almost had a similar sort of path, other than you veered off a little bit, but the experience earned is going to be, I think, quite vital going forward. And why the Upper Highway? Was that just again opportunity with Shelley where they wanted to expand their footprint? It's a new challenge for you. Like, why not come back to where you were previously, or go further north? What was the sort of allure to the Upper Highway, other than also living up there?
Well, that's it. Coming down to family at the end of the day. So, you know, my heart will always be, I'm a beach boy at heart. So if it wasn't an easy decision, my partner and I, it was many a discussion. Shame. And I think I was almost dragging her north coast. So in a weird way, originally it was actually going to be more on the north coast. But once Lise fell pregnant again, once I started to understand my values and how they had realigned, and knowing that the motivation behind all of this was family, I had to sort of put my own personal desires to the side and go, well, what's best for my family? And you know, Lisa's business is up here. She hasn't got offices or anything north coast. So for me to uproot her and take her north wouldn't make sense. From a schooling point of view, the Upper Highway area really has some of the best schools in the province. From property ownership point of view, big gardens, it's just a really lovely community to bring a family up in. Not to say the North Coast isn't, but when I understood why I'm doing what I'm doing, it actually became quite easy to go, you know what, we're up here, friends are moving up into the Upper Highway area, it's a fantastic area to bring a family up. Why don't you just park the bus, forget about, you know, going surfing every single morning, that will come. But why don't you look at what's in front of you? So, you know, once I made the decision, let's focus on Upper Highway. Then it was a very easy one from there. So that's pretty much how it came about.
And family's a big shift. I mean, it's incredible. So I mean, we thought about the Upper Highway at one stage, and like moving on. But then it's hard to I'm a firm believer of you can't, and I mean that's been drummed into me from mentors and whatnot prior. You can't work in the area you don't live in real estate, especially if you're going to sell. Different if you maybe own the office or manage, but you got to entrench yourself in the community. People know you. You're not going to go to the spa in Bolito if you live 15 minutes away from the one in Kloof or whatever. So that's exciting. It's close to a golf course as well, which isn't a downside, I guess. I was chatting to one of the Cape Town guys, and they were like, "Oh, we've picked up like a 30 in Cape Town." Fair enough. They picked up a 30 million rand listing from playing golf, and I was like, "Sure." Like none of that happens for me here. Maybe I don't play golf enough. That's the problem. But I've got to run that past the boss to see if I'm allowed to or Megs. But yeah, it's exciting stuff, Joshy. What is going to be? I won't ask you to name a name, but have you identified people that you'd want to sort of pull over, or have you not even thought about recruiting yet?
No, I mean, of course we've thought about recruiting, but the way that the model that we're running with, which isn't it's not like an extreme model or completely different model, but the way that we do things is a little bit different, and it can be hard on experienced agents who have worked in the industry before to come into an environment like Shelley have created in their Westville Cowes Hill office, and the environment we want to create in an upper highway office, it can be challenging for an experienced agent to adapt that the way they work to how we want to operate. So while we're not against bringing in experienced agents, it would need to be the right person and someone who is open to changing things slightly and doing things a little bit different to what they would have been accustomed to. So we're leaning very strongly towards more intern agents, people who have never operated in the real estate space before. An ideal candidate would be, someone who's been in sales, but hasn't necessarily maybe thought of real estate as an option. Someone who's got that high energy, someone who is a self-starter, entrepreneurial minded, those typical outgoing, just get stuff done, someone with attention to detail, someone who's good at communication, got heaps of empathy, all the things that we cannot teach, we can teach the real estate stuff, that.
You can learn what you have to say and when to say it, and you build up a bit of sort of consistency with doing the activities. I mean, everybody knows that. But like I say, I think anybody thinking of getting into real estate, like now especially, you have to dive in full tilt, and this is your only career. But you also have to sort of be technologically comfortable, and I think that's the difference really I've seen anyways. I did it in a talk once for private property, where it's like when I started, because I was more technologically inclined, like, that's how you compete with the experience. And the faster you can learn, like the social media side of things, and that I had a very cool conversation the other day, and it was actually quite sweet, where I sat down with the seller, and I do have the mandate, fortunately, but they said, like, and your fee? And I said, well, this is what it is. And they're like, oh, but you don't even spend that much money on advertising anymore, like the agents used to when they had to advertise in the paper. And I was like, well, to be honest with you, it's actually far more expensive now. The market's so competitive. I was like, but look, this is where the money's invested. And they're like, I never would have guessed that. They're like, yeah, because you don't have to spend it in the newspaper and the Sunday Tribune anymore to get people for your show houses. Like, it's so much more than that. So I was like, you found properties in the paper. I was like, let me show you where buyers are looking now. And it's all 99% of it online. I mean, like Prop24 and all the magazines, they're all digital. I was like, I'm paying money to keep people looking at your property on their screen, that needs to translate into a viewing. And I mean, after that, we didn't even discuss commission anymore because they understood. But like that, again, is like experience. Like if I didn't know about all the stuff that's going on, how do I just sit there and say, well, do you know what? Maybe you're right, because we don't spend money in the paper. I think it's also different. You'll know from when you do it. If you don't physically invest your own money into your own business, and you're reliant on what the agency does, I think it's harder to sell yourself. I agree, Shirley. I don't think any buyer outside of maybe off a for sale board purchases or finds a property not online nowadays. I had a cool convo with one of the agents in England, and basically what he said, and it's so true. So like way back when, prior to the newspaper and stuff, your marketing reach was effectively your office window, where if this was it, anybody that walked by, that was your immediate sort of reach, and if they stopped to look, that was great. And then things like newspapers came about, where now your reach went from somebody walking past your window plus being able to read it when they pick their paper up and they're checking out the news or whatever. I was like, but now our reach is anybody with a cell phone and internet connection. And if they're not actively looking, we can pay for it to be on their screen, because maybe they're thinking about looking, or they said couch or house to their friend, and you know how ads pop up. It's ridiculous, and it's insane. But what do you think it's going to be like for you? But obviously you've been around selling, and like you say, when you went to present mandates and whatnot, so you haven't been too out of touch. And obviously you have to be seller focused, because when you've got sellers, naturally you get buyers. What do you think, if you're happy to share, is going to be like your unique value add, or if you want to give like a little spin on your listing presentation, or what should be included for any agents that are watching?
Sure. So I guess the value add is me. when a seller works solely with me, they get me on the other end of the phone every time a buyer calls. They get me handling, the entire process. And I think that is fundamentally first and foremost. Majority of agents and agencies, we're all going to advertise in the same places. We can all get professional photographers. We can all do very similar things to promote a property. But at the end of the day, there's only one Josh Friedman, there's only one Jared Jeffrey. And by working solely with me, you're getting me and everything I bring from a personality, from a building trust, from rapport, from getting any buyer who shows an interest in your property, getting them that when they fall in love with your home, through our marketing and through everything else that we bring, when they're sitting at the table opposite me discussing, right, what do you think, what should I pay? What's this home? It's being able to build that trust and that rapport and getting, facilitating that process. So I think first and foremost, what I've learned to understand over the last few years is the value I bring individually, which is unique, and every single agent will have their own uniqueness. So I think it's understanding that and being able to convey that, or being able to articulate that to a seller, making them understand the value of a sole mandate, why a sole mandate, and what's going to happen when we're forced in the marketplace to interact with one person, and that person being me. So first and foremost, it's that. But then on the marketing side, you've mentioned it already. We now at an age where this is where people are constantly gone are the days of sticking a listing up on the portals or putting an advert in the newspaper and waiting for a buyer to go find it. What are we doing to put it in front of the buyer's noses? What are we doing to force these listings out there to the buyer pool? And then once we're generating that interest, what are we doing to facilitate that? What are we doing to get them to the property, to create that experience where by the time they fall in love with the home, because selling a house is actually quite easy. Once you've got the listing, once you've got it priced correctly, once you've got the right buyer through the door, now it's just about what can we do to get the seller the price. But they're either going to love it or they're not. There's nothing that I'm going to do that's going to get a buyer who doesn't like a home to now love it.
That's exactly it. I mean, like I say to everyone, real estate, like you said, it's actually very easy. Well, certain parts of it are very easy, because when it happens organically, there's actually not much resistance. There's very little trouble. There's very few hard conversations. But it's obviously the behind the scenes stuff that people don't necessarily maybe get themselves exposed to. But it's crazy. So like just seeing one of Shirley's comments here where it's like buyer guys are just looking to have their hand held and trust the process that you're going to guide them through and keep them updated. So if you summarize that into one word, it's communication. And it's equally as important for a buyer as a seller, but like you say, so when someone's getting you and you fully invested in them, a good agent handles that very comfortably. It's like anyone. I mean, it's an emotional thing for a lot of times. I had a conversation the other day where someone was a backup offer and they unfortunately lost out to the primary offer, and they just, but we just didn't understand because we got our bond first. I was like, but they got their bond 24 hours later, and it was, you both had the same sort of end date. And she said, okay, and like now she understands. So it was, well, your internet's bad at that office, Josh. You tell them update it to uncapped or whatever plus. You're trying to dodge the question. You're waving the router around. But it's crazy. So like, as much as I say it, like this market or how we're doing things is technological, it's never, ever, ever been more relational than what it is today. And if you don't have a solid and healthy relationship with the seller or buyer, or agents or anyone sort of that's involved with property, it's going to be a hard road ahead. Because like Shirley says, people want to know that they're updated. They want to be able to trust you. You have to care. We're not robots. And that's why until such time as my iPad grows legs and has emotions, I'm going to be the one on the other side of the call. And it's crazy. So I think you've done that really well over time. Well, it will be interesting to see because now you're back in the saddle for real. But yeah, it's exciting stuff. So talking about that, obviously you have to be, like you say, entrenched in the community. Are there any sort of initiatives or things that you're going to do immediately? Or how are people going to know about Joshua Friedman? other than
So, yeah.
photo shoots and
Yeah,
bulk?
community is 100% one of our pillars, community involvement. So, look, to be fair, while we've got a few things in the bubble, there's nothing firm or solidified yet. This came about a lot quicker than we had planned. So our official launch date in the Upper Highway is we sort of planning towards June.
Okay.
And at that point, we can then start to really look at what are we going to back, what are we going to do. So yeah, as of now, I can't tell you anything that we are 100% committed on, besides for the fact that community is a very big part of it's one of our main pillars. And I can't wait to actually get involved in the community. It was during the looting last year where I really felt quite a disconnect. The two communities that I'd been entrenched in up to that point were the Westville community and the Durban North. And I just remember going through that week of looting, sitting up in Assegai and not knowing anyone around us, not knowing who to reach out to, how to get involved. Seeing through WhatsApp and through social media, my friends and community in Westville getting together, supporting one another, getting through my friends and community in Durban North, getting together. And I just felt very isolated. And it was like community all of a sudden became so short, I've got to get back involved in the community, which also became, was one of the things that is exciting me about this is, now I'm settling, I'm committing to the Upper Highway, and I can get involved in the community again and start building a community of my own up there, which is exciting.
Okay. Now we're going to see a for sale board prior to the 1st of June, or are you really just holding off until that day you shoot yourself on the cannon?
Very possibly. So, you know what it's like when you get going. You're juggling a lot of balls. And you're just waiting for that first one to land. So in communication with quite a few owners, and all, for whatever reason, not ready today. But yeah, I'm sure in the next days we'll get our first one. So it'll happen.
Yeah, you know it better than anyone, being not just an agent, but in like a coaching role for the last while. It's the activities. I mean, the more you do, the sooner you're going to find someone. But you can't spend all your time just phoning, because then, like you say, you're going to tread this line. And I mean, it's tough, especially not so much when you'll notice when baby's born. For the most part, for the first while, I'd say for the first 3 weeks, you don't want to move away because you want to be involved in everything. But then, unfortunately, the reality is you've got to do some work and whatnot. But now, especially, so Laura has 2 on the 8th. It's hard to leave, especially when it's happened a few times. Admittedly, I back away sometimes, so it doesn't. But when they cry out to say, "Dada," you want to cancel your day and just and stay at home. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But I'm here for dad advice. Can't guarantee that it's great, but it's interesting. It's this conundrum of almost you've got to do the work, because obviously you want to do the best possible work and work as hard as possible to be able to provide and give the life to someone that you feel and know that they deserve. But then on the flip side, you're you don't really ever want to leave, because when you do leave, it's time taken away. But it's this interesting conundrum that sort of continually goes round and round of you want to be at home, but you can't be at home, because if you're at home, then you're not working, and if you're not working, you're not providing. But then when you do take time and you're fully invested, you've got to fully invest. When you're there, that time's incredible, especially now. But while they're this little ball of squish, it's not so bad. But then sometimes when they can run and you realize how dangerous your house is, it's you wish back to when they didn't go off their little play mat for a little bit type thing, because it's constant chaos. And don't get a puppy. Whatever you do not get a puppy when they can walk, because it's really having a baby.
Well, 2 things. So firstly, fortunately, I seem to surround myself with wise people all the time. And let's put it this way, I'm sure I'm not the first person to go and start a business because they're starting a family and the reasons why I want to. But now tell me, how many business owners do you know who actually utilize that scenario of being a business owner because they get to spend so much time with their family?
Well, that's exactly it.
Either end up falling in love with their business as well and knowing what they want to put into that business and end up committing to that business probably more than they would a job. So, when I say a job, working for someone, or an 8 to 5, however you want to define that. So yeah, that's the challenge that's been put to me is remember in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, why are you doing what you're doing today? And be sure to take the time with your family as much as you want it now, because how many people go down the road of building a business and end up being absorbed by that business and not being able to spend the time that they originally intended to with family. So yeah, that's the first thing. And as for the puppy, we got the puppy, Jared. We got the puppy just before we found out we were pregnant. So it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. He's a 7-month-old Staffy. And if anyone knows what Staffies are like at 7 months old, you can't keep them down. So
Puppy's
yeah,
cool. Puppy's cool. Apparently they're dog daycares now. I mean,
yes, they are.
That's
crazy.
I
I would go to the other
in
dogs.
a million years, but some days I'm like, oh, we should just send her. But no, we'd never. To be fair, it's more just like if the pool gate's left open, she'll be in the pool, and then if the gate by the house isn't closed, you're in for a mop, because there's no fear between running from the pool drenched through the house, and it's like on any given day, like when it's casual, like Daisy will walk from outside, like she'll go lie in the bed or whatever, but when wet, it's like she needs to cover as much ground as possible. Because it's fun. Because even when the mop's out, she chases that as well. It's chaos, but it's cool though. But yeah, I can only imagine it's going to be about the same. So if you, I'm just also reading the comments a little bit. This is also the most comments I've ever had. But to be fair, this is like the first live I've posted ahead of time. So if you,
so we've got Paul on here. That's awesome. Anusha, how's it, Anusha?
Yeah.
Kirsty, that's cool.
Kirsty, yeah. Have you met Kirsty? I think she does your guys' staging.
Yes, I've known Kirsty for quite a while. I've known her from years ago, being in West.
Prior.
Kirsty,
you have to. You
know, about prior years with her, she only had one child. Now she's got 3. So, life is changing for all of us, eh?
Great. It's great. I mean, like anyone you speak to, but so if you look at it, like if you talk about just like one child to some, we did a valuation about 1.5 years ago, and it was a family. They had a daughter, and they're like, okay, we're going to try for number 2, and they had identical triplets. So they went from 1 to 4. So it's like, oh, you're probably going to need more space. I've got just the house, but yeah, it's crazy. Like you just talk about how life happens and changes and whatnot. It's unbelievable. So you're starting your office 1st of June, but obviously you're doing the work now. What's nice is what you save on petrol from coming to the car virtual office every day, you can spend on marketing, so that's exciting. And then are you also going to be actively involved on this side, or is your sole focus Upper Highway?
No, it will be a separate entity, separate operation.
Okay.
In the Upper Highway area, yeah.
Very nice. So you're going to get a white car so you can brand it?
So I'll probably have to wrap mine for the foreseeable future. New kid, back to no income. Like I swore I would never do this again, but anyway, here we are. So there'll be no new cars. There'll be no new cars for a while, but I'm sure we could scrape some pennies together to get my car wrapped white with the Shelley logo.
There we go. You know what's great? Otherwise, just change the identity. So you just have to have silver cars on the Upper Highway and different.
Yeah, I think I less than no chance.
Have you seen the cost of nappies?
No, but I had an insurance assessor around at my house earlier on, and he enlightened me. Fortunately, at our nappy brow, we got quite spoiled, so I've got a cupboard
full of
nappies. But yeah, apparently you can't get enough. He was at a baby expo a few weeks ago and dropped 10,000 Rand on nappies because that was the discount they were offering, and recommended I do the same. I won't use the language he used thereafter, but yeah, it sounds like I'll pay myself.
Oh, do you know what I do though? And this is very interesting, and I can use it for work and I can use it for personal expenses. Like I don't even know what nappies cost at the moment, because it's just a block you have. Like if you need, you get. Usually I'll get like 3 or 4 at a time, because then it feels like I'm not buying as frequently. But you can use the cost of nappies to justify literally any purchase, anything. So like if you go through it and I've done it once, but now it's just in my head, so it's easy going. Like if you look at like the cost of the nappy pack, you see how many you use a day. You're like, okay, you can justify anything because you'll be like, oh, that t-shirt that I'd never buy is only like 4 packs of nappies. My shirt's going to last me like 3 years. My nappies are done before like 3 weeks. Anything.
Can I mute you? I hope Lisa's not listening because I think she spends enough on clothes. We don't need her hearing this.
We went to a sales thing the other day and you just say you deserve it. And like, I deserve it. Like that dress, I deserve it. But yeah, no, hopefully she's not watching. But if she does, then you've caught. And the thing about the live show, there's no editing. Like you can say fuck, you can do whatever you want. There's no taking it back. There's no, which is quite cool. And like that's the thing, and that's why, for 2 reasons, why I shifted from like doing the Zoom thing to going live. One, I primarily also do it on my iPad, and I found downloading the episode and then trying to upload it. Like if there's an internet thing or it doesn't download properly, schlep. Now it does it all for me. I learned a pretty cool thing, and I'm sure you've done it over time as well. With like business, like there's 4 things. Like if you can't do it, automate it. If you can't automate it, delegate it. If you can't delegate it, just delete it. So this is, I love doing this. I love talking to people. But now the uploading and stuff's automated. And then if I couldn't, I'd have to delegate it. But I can still do it, so it's easy going. So speaking of things and systems, because you've been a coach and always I like to learn as much as, but if you had to give someone a little bit of advice outside of selling, maybe on a personal branding sort of side of thing, because I think you've been quite heavily involved in that. Like what are maybe 3 things you'd focus on? Or
from a personal branding point of view?
Yeah.
From a marketing, personal branding. I think number 1, be authentic. So consistency is key when it comes to marketing and branding. If you're going to try and promote yourself as something you're not 100% are, if that makes sense, you're not 100% are. If you're going to promote yourself as something that's not you, then you're going to have to try and keep up this persona over time. And that is, number 1, exhausting, and number 2, probably not realistic. So I think be authentically you, and your tribe will find you. Market yourself as you, and people will. I see Deb sending a message there, so distracted. And people who associate with your brand will seek you out. So, yeah, number 1 would be authentic. Number 2, I think I mentioned, if there would be consistent. And number 3, spend money. I think something you're familiar with, and it's funny enough. I started working with Scott here years ago, long before Shelley, Shelley was a twinkle in his eye. But, I one day woke up, I'd probably been in real estate 3 or 4 years, and I was now getting to a point where I paid off that debt. I could start investing in self-promotion, personal branding. And at the time, I remember looking around at, dustbins were an option. That's what most people were doing. Street poles were an option, but they were quite pricey at the time. This was about 2014. But one thing I realized is every morning I was waking up, and I don't even think Instagram was a thing back then. I was going on Facebook, and I just thought to myself, sure. I started to notice like big companies, Coca-Cola's and MTN's and whoever advertising on there, quite subtly. It wasn't as much as you'll see today from a marketing point of view. I think there's a lot more advertising there now. And I saw, agents were putting up listings, but there was something like, I knew I wanted to be there, but I didn't want to be putting up listings all the time. So I actually went straight to Prop Data. I went straight to Scott, and I said, look, this is what I want to do. I want to be seen here, but it's not my expertise. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? And Scott was like, I'm looking for an agent that I can do exactly this with. And I ended up employing them. So for ages after that, people would reach out to me and tell me what a fantastic job I'm doing with my branding. That exploded me from a business point of view. And I had to say to people, well, truth be told, I'm not really doing much. I've partnered with the right people, and I'm investing in myself. So I think tip number 3 is work towards your strengths. If you're good at selling, if you're good at building relationships, do that. Bring someone in who can assist you and elevate that side of your business. I think a lot of people try and do it on their own. Don't do it well. Don't do it consistent. Spend some money. Invest in yourself. Elevate it. So yeah, that would be a number 3. Spend some money.
Crazy. So of the, the 5th one that, now live, and there was one, and this is what brought me to doing the live thing was did the whole episode, which was fantastic, but just somewhere it got corrupted, so I just couldn't ever upload it, which killed me because it was such a good episode. But that's a common theme: authentic, consistent, and in one way, shape, or form, invest. Because if you're not you, it's going to catch up with you somewhere. And then it might create like this sort of like dishonest, or like this eeriness of like maybe being a bit dishonest because, or you said you're this person, now you're doing that. And people like to work with you. It's a pity that not everybody will ever work with you, but that's okay. That's why it's a numbers game. But yeah, if you haven't, you must watch the first one I did with Matt Leonetti. So he's a Canadian realtor. And also for 3 years in his business, like it just didn't ever really take off how he expected. And like if you go look now, like I look at his Instagram and I'm like, oh, I could do those reels. And like every thing he does, I'm like, those are phenomenal ideas. And then like I'll never forget, I saw a video where they're like, oh, if you see something, like just like mimic it if it like suits your thing. And so a guy did, but he just copied it like word for word for word for word for word. And so like the reply was like when we said that, we didn't mean like actually copy it. It was like if like that suits your niche, you should do it. So like I look at the reels he does on Instagram, for example, and I think they're phenomenal. Not like exactly me. I wish I did them because I think people would laugh and find them funny, but it's easier to just go follow him because I'd have to steal word for word. But yeah, like if you're not you, how do people trust you? And that's why I like social media so much, because ultimately you just share your life, and I invite people to be a part of it because you've got to know me. And that's why I like it's so incredible, because when you are online and people do see you and you're a friend and they follow you, like you'll know, like they know you, they're part of your journey. So it's not just about selling real estate. The other day, and of course it's the appointment where you think it might be 15 minutes ended up being like over an hour, because the appointment was 15 minutes, like talking the facts to this to that, but it was 45 minutes of just talking about, you know, this person and I know that person, and you went to school with my son from here, and how's it been and what's going on, and I see you've got a baby, and I don't even think we're friends on Facebook, but they're like a part of it, and I welcome it because it's exciting stuff, and like that's why community is so big. And
you'll know, I mean, any person who started a business in the beginning, you haven't got many leads. You've got to try and make every single one count. And so a lot of the leads that you follow up on, a lot of your prospects, you reaching out to, you making the first move, you're trying to constantly convince people to work with you. You've got to work 3 times as hard to get the same results. But over time, you start to attract clients who want to work with you. And that's a big part of personal promotion and branding. And when you're authentic and you attract the right people, you don't have to spend your time all day trying to convince people to work with you. That part of the job's done. They're keen to work with you. They want to work with you. It becomes so much easier once you've got that rapport and that trust to then, work with the right clientele. But yeah, easier said than done in the early days, and you just got to try work with whatever you can. But do the right activities, build your client base up, build your database up to the right point where you just spend all day working with the people who want to work with you. It's a nice place to be.
Well, I mean, there's just less drama, and it's just there's less personality clashes. There's less everything, because you attract sort of like-minded people, and that's why I think, like, when I say real estate's easy, maybe it's not as easy as what you might think, because you see some people and you're like, oh, you're just continually having like this run of frustration, and it's, well, maybe it's just because like there's something that's just not 100% clicking, and that's fine, and that's because most of the time people get past it because it's on a professional level, but it's quite funny to see that. They're like, oh, Jared, you must be so lucky because you very rarely have any problems. I'm like, well, I do, but they're just minor. And like, you deal with them because you're having a conversation. It's usually done fairly easily, and it doesn't build up and become this thing. And I think that's because we're on the same sort of level. And like when there's when there's confrontation or conflict, like my natural sort of response is humor, and fortunately, if it's someone that I'm working with, usually gets it and it like sort of diffuses it. But there's been a few times where I may have said something like, oh, can you imagine, like, you worried about the wall falling over, can you imagine the roof blew off? And like, ooh, maybe that one didn't go down as well as what in my head went, but you sort of move forward with it. When you start on the 1st of June, okay, now let me circle back. So like anyone that sort of starts, and like, you know this now, you've got to do it hard, and like you've been through the Buffini training and whatnot, and like any real training is mostly, I found, the same type of sort of content. It's just delivered in the way that they're able to deliver it, and like it's like anyone, you'll pick up from Tom Ferry one thing, but then you'll get the next one from O'Brien and whatnot. And it's like meeting new people, and I don't think you're too concerned about it, because I think you're pretty out there, and you know it's just a comfort zone that you have to get through. Is that something you're going to do? Are you going to try to just meet 3 people every day, or are you going to sort of lean in on the relationships you already have and sort of cultivate those?
No, I haven't got nearly enough for the business that I want to grow in the area. So yeah, big goal. If I can meet anyone, any opportunity to meet anyone, I'm taking it. And yeah, you know, meeting someone is one thing. It's all about the follow up. And I'm quite. It's one thing that I push from a coaching, mentoring point of view. It's one thing I believe in strongly is the follow up. So yeah, it's again leaning back, going back to building a database, building the principle, getting the principles in place, getting my system set up for the follow up. It's something I'm looking forward to. But any opportunity, I mean, I'm meeting people on a regular basis, and it's funny whenever I'm getting an introduction, I've got the person who's doing the introducing saying, "Look, it might be a waste of time. I'm sorry, but I just thought it'd be nice for you to meet someone." And I'm going, "You have no idea how valuable this is. Like, I'm happy to have coffee and meet with anyone right now." And it's not that I'm looking to get something out of it. It's just that's the business we're in, is relationship building, connecting dots, helping people. So the more people I meet, the more opportunities I'm going to get to assist. So yeah, any opportunity I can to meet, that's the name of the game right now.
It has to be. I mean, it's never a waste of time meeting someone new, because I mean, you've effectively, and it's going to be cool to see how you do it. Especially in a new area, but like you've got to be the guy that knows sort of everyone and anyone, because not everybody, like you know already, is ready to sell today, but they might be ready to retail their bathroom, they might be ready to try a new restaurant. Like you want them to phone you to say, "Hey Josh, where's good to go for dinner tonight?" And you say, "Try Lupa," whatever it is, and you're like, "Oh, by the way," that saying, which when I first heard it, and I'm sure you maybe felt the same, like, how can you ever say that to someone? Like, oh, by the way, just never visit your referral, or never too busy for any of your referrals. And you know, I remember sitting in the training room then, I'm like, I'm never going to say this to anyone. Like, how can you? Now I think I say it more times than like goodbye. And it's quite funny. So it's going to be cool to see how you implement those type of things. What are you going to do with your first money that, don't say reinvest into the business, because that's nonsense. When you earn your first money, what are you going to buy, like, as a reward? Or do you have something that you've thought of, like, if I hit X, Y, or Z, this is my reward for making it happen?
I'm definitely going to have to spoil my fiance. Hey, she's been incredible through this process. She really has. She supported me 110% from when I first started talking about this back last year, September, coming home and saying, right, this is what I'm doing. This is what I need to do. And while the details weren't clear, I knew it was doing something on my own, potentially moving the area, you know, through all those discussions. She's only been supportive, and she's had to take it all on while carrying a baby. So yeah, I think there's going to be big spoils coming her way as soon as I start bringing some money in. She's definitely helping out in the interim. Yeah, so
and you want to put it out there what it is, do you know? Like, so then it's, once it's said, it's happening, or
well, no, I was running with her business partner this morning, and we ran past the Oyster Box, and he goes, one of these days when I'm, you know, wealthy and famous, I'm going to spend a night at the Oyster Box. So I thought, yeah, maybe that's what I'm going to be spending my first paycheck on, a night at the Oyster Box.
Okay. There we go. Well, you better sell more than you better do more than your 67 grand gross and share it with the company, which is why nice is fun. And like, for you personally, is there anything that you like, once things are going, this is what I'm going to buy because this is what I deserve? Or or I don't want to say you're not driven by that, but like, is there something that's crossed your mind as well that you're like, that would be nice?
No, and a big part of, I suppose, my personal growth over the last 4 years has been that. As an agent, the more I earned, the more I spent, and it was a big realization when I changed to a salaried position. And I realized, sure, my behavior is all over the show from a money spending point of view.
Yeah.
So a big part of what I've had to work on over the last 2 years is it doesn't matter how much you earn. If you don't know what to do with that money once you earn it, well, you're always going to be going from pillar to post, trying to earn more. So a big part of what I've done over the last 18 months is focus on once you got the money, what do you do with it? So I must be honest, for now, I haven't really got much desire to buy anything. I think, let's put it this way, I don't ever want to wake up on a Monday and go, oh my God, I've got to go to work today. And not that I've ever got there, but I think a big part of what I was going through last year maybe was pushing me in that direction as much as I didn't want to consciously. And I just understood the value of having money, not to buy things, but if I ever need to wake up and go, I want to reinvent myself, I want to go study something, I want to open a business, money gives you options. So before I buy anything further, I want to ensure that we've got enough money to provide options.
Well, let me tell you places you're going to need to avoid. Toys R Us. Because it's fine when they don't know what's inside the shop, but like when they figure it out, I promise you, it's impossible to say no. And like you'll find, especially the more sort of like detached you are, or a little bit detached because you have to work or you have to do whatever. So like you come home and like you melt, and as soon as they realize like that's where the good stuff is, you can walk past any shop you want. Like they recognize it and they put all the cool stuff close to the front of notes. It's like the Lego nonsense that Dad might buy is at the back, but like the babies and whatnot are all by the front. So you walk past and it's like I saw a reel the other day where it's like parents pushing a trolley and as they get close they just start sprinting, and I'm like, it's actually like a viable option because it's hard not to walk in there for something and walk out with something you didn't expect. So if you're going to spend money, don't worry, it's coming, and it's not going to do anything.
So maybe I should be great. I'm not spending money on myself anytime soon.
No ways, you're done. You bottom of the totem pole now. And it's and to be fair, it's worth it. And what's crazy, and it's things like I said I'd never do it. Like if I go to Pavilion or wherever by myself, inevitably like you walk past a little jersey or like a little shirt and you're like, oh, that's cute. Let me just get it, and I said I'd never be that. Like I told Megan while she was pregnant, it's like I'm going to be the guy that says no ways, I'm going to be the strictest dad, and you're going to say, oh, let's buy this. Like, to be honest, it's the other way around, and it's ridiculous because I didn't think I'd ever be like that. But that being said, just wait. When you buy nappies, it just becomes this like justification theory, and I'm going to try to pay because it's true. Like anything is justifiable, like absolutely anything. And it's crazy. But anyways, it is what it is. That's the joys of being a parent and hopefully being in a position that you can do those things. Because it's like you didn't choose to, or they didn't choose to come along. So sometimes it's a bit of a mistake, I suppose.
I don't know. They definitely choose us as parents, but I suppose timing is up to us. Maybe not even, but
There you go. Yeah, it's just everything in nappies and wet wipes. It's crazy. But that being said, it's exciting stuff. I don't know how much more time we've allocated, but we're about to hit an hour. So I'll let you get back to your calls and doing whatever you're supposed to. Is there anything, because we can always refer back to this, that you want to throw out there that the sort of our 9 people can hold you accountable to?
But I do want to commend you and just say well done for putting together this podcast. Hey, I think it's awesome to see someone who tries to do things differently and change things up and not follow the same.
Yeah.
And the fact that you are branching out and putting this together and taking the time and investing in this, I think it's an awesome initiative. and I'm excited to see where this podcast continues to go. So keep it up.
When it's 900,000 views, I'm not going to do real estate anymore because I'll be a millionaire. And all my show sponsors,
Yes, we're going to be fighting to get on this podcast in 100 episodes time.
I'm telling you, my assistant, I'll have an assistant. There'll be like this other guy when we talk about, when we mention something, I'll be behind the scenes Googling and it will pop up on another screen and all that nonsense. But until then, so my first investment, not that when this thing makes money, but where it goes, I'll probably get a sign somewhere behind me. So that'll be quite cool. But like I saw this neon one, as you do when you Google podcasts and like StreamYard that I use. So that was my first investment, was going from the free trial to the paid version. Not that it's a lot of money, but like it allows you to go live on multiple platforms. If we wanted to have 10 guests on, we could. I haven't got to use it, but like you can choose banners and stuff, and all of that stuff. But it's but yeah, so like that was my first little investment because it's something I'm going to continue doing, and I felt like if I was going to run off the free one, it's easy to not do it. But yeah, Google the neon sign. It was crazy expensive, but I thought, well, that will be my one spoil. But yeah, when it hits birthday month and whatnot, and somehow we've done them all together. It's our wedding anniversary, Lawman's birthday, Megan's birthday is in April. The only reprieve is it gives them like 6 months or 5 months to save, then it's my birthday. Little breather, then Christmas, and the cycle starts again. But anyways, Joshy, good to see you. We'll definitely catch up.
Thank you.
Maybe not sooner, but certainly before you get frantic after June, it will be cool to see how you hit the ground running. And then if you want, I did one in-person podcast. We'll do one at your new spots and your offices and stuff, and then we'll catch up.
Awesome.
It's good to see you.
Thanks for putting this together. I'll go for beer soon.
Cool. Cheers, mate.
Okay. Cheers,